Inside Healthcare. If you have fallen on an icy parking lot or on a slippery sidewalk this winter, you're certainly not alone. Dr. Kristi Trussell with the Uregency Room talks about the types of injuries she has seen during these first few weeks of 2023 here in Minnesota.
Any fall can result in an injury, so really wearing good, solid outdoor boots and shoes with good tread in the winter, uh, being mindful of the ice, taking it slow, and being mindful of where you're stepping. Certainly around your own house, you can put out ice melt and treat those areas that you know are problems before anyone slips there.
It seems like a lot of people, including myself, have fallen like in parking lots, just running out to the mailbox to go get things like this. Something you're just going to run out quickly, and you should always be prepared, right? And take measures. Other things that you're seeing, what type of injuries that result in these falls, from these falls?
Yes, like I said, a fall can result in many different types of injuries: bumps, bruises, strains, sprains, broken bones. We often see people for head injuries who fall and hit their head on the ice. We are able to evaluate for concussion, for skull fracture, for bleeding inside the brain. Some patients with more severe injuries or underlying risk factors, such as being on a blood thinner, may need a head CT, which we can certainly do at our clinics.
So if you do fall, they should go urgency room you have ways to test and make sure that it's not more serious, and then to treat them as well. And other type of things that you would treat them if they have a fall or injury? I guess it really depends on the type of injury, yeah.
So we have the ability to do X-ray or CT scan that will evaluate for most injuries. The treatment definitely depends on the type of injury. For fractures, we're able to, if necessary, realign the bones and place a splint or a cast. Other injuries need, braces or more temporary type splints or removable braces to help with pain and just rest the area.
Anything else that people should know about urgency room, what you offer to people that might be injured during these winter months?
We have 3 locations: Woodbury, Eagan, and Vadnais Heights. We're open 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., and we'd be happy to evaluate any of your injuries.
And you're now currently offering scheduled care.
We do currently have the option for scheduled appointments. These are same day scheduled appointments. You can go to our website and see your scheduling options. This is a great way to be able to get expedited care without as long of a wait as sometimes we see with walk-in care.
Well, Dr. Trussell, always great to see you here on Inside Healthcare. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
The new Minnesota Student Survey is out, and it reveals that more students than ever before are stressed, anxious, and depressed, especially 11th grade girls. A local health expert, Merri, Guggisberg, has some advice for our parents.
First off, thanks, Jody. How good to be with you and your viewers. I think there is no surprise for anyone raising a kiddo today to say that our kids are more stressed, and just the heaviness of what's happening and has happened in the world is showing up, obviously, in our kiddos. I love the Minnesota Student Survey. I think it gives us great insight to what is happening every day in a kiddo's life. And it's one of the many tools to be used when supporting kiddos. It's used by mental health practitioners, coaches. It's used by school staff. Just where do we take our focus? Where do we take the best wraparound care for our kiddos? And it's a helpful tool.
And in particular, they were saying that girls in the 11th grade seem to be suffering the most or have challenges with mental health.
Yeah.
Any reason why that particular age group?
I would say it varies from year to year, how the survey comes back. Some years it's earlier. I think let's pause and think of where was an 11th grader? Well, 2 years ago, they would have started high school, but their high school experience started probably from their bedrooms and now We're slowly coming back into this, everybody back in person. And we look at the other research of kiddos and academics and how are those kiddos keeping up? And there's additional pressures. Again, all I can say is the Minnesota Student Survey, awesome tool, excellent tool that helps now me as a practitioner that's going to come in, or all of us. How do we provide the best care for these kiddos and help build skills that's going to help them move forward?
What would be some of those advice or tips that you would give to parents and students as well?
Yeah, you know what I think is so helpful is walking through what is resiliency. And resiliency is me, all of us, right? We all have challenges in our everyday life. And it's how am I able to bounce back? And some kiddos, it seems like they can bounce back really easy. Maybe they have a different toolkit, right? Maybe they've walked through different things. But the one thing to remember about being resilient is that everybody's at a different level. There is no perfect plan when it comes to being a resilient person. And then also reminding parents and caregivers and all of us that you might have more resiliency in one part of your life than you do in others. So for a kiddo, I might be able to bounce back a lot faster at home, but with my school challenges, I might need a little more support. It's just having that toolkit. Oh, I think it's super important to have a plan too. When it comes to that resiliency is having a plan. And I wouldn't advise that you would walk through this when temperatures are hot and everybody is like, well, we just need to figure out a plan to get through this. Having a plan means approaching when we're all even keel and we can walk through this.
What would be some of those tips that you would give?
Yeah,
For that
thank you.
plan,
That's,
yeah, I
I
mean, how
have
do you
4
start a
tips that I
plan?
think would really help in that. And once it starts with connections. It starts with research shows all kiddos need 5 caring adults to be healthy, caring adults themselves as they mature. So part of that plan would be parents who are in your circle of 5 caring adults. Could be coaches, could be teachers, could be, if you're in a faith community, faith leaders, neighbors. And I like to advise parents that that's your homework, is that's your job at all ages. It's never too early and it's never too late to start putting those 5 caring adults in place. Along with in their care circle is who are in their friendship circles, like who are their positive friendships. This goes for us too, right? Hang out with people that build you up, not pull you down. And we all crave that. My own 2 children have heard me say that more than once. Are they building you up or pulling you down? And we do need that, because the more we have those caring relationships, that creates that positivity in me as the receiver and the giver, for a healthier, happier, more satisfied life. And the last thing around connections is having a sense of belonging. And when we have a sense of belonging to a greater purpose, really that helps shape the attitudes for everyone, right? And I would invite families to just be like, what are we doing that is part of something bigger than our family? Maybe a family is passionate about charity work. They're passionate about fill in the blank. And that gives that kiddo then an opportunity to go, wow, the world is bigger than just my little circle here. So connections is number 1. Oh,
Yes.
and so number 2, thank you. I have 4 total, I think, that are really helpful. So number 2 is being present. It's that mindfulness, practicing mindfulness. Because when we pause and show up for ourselves, you know the old saying, right? Put on your own oxygen mask first. And when we do that, then we as caregivers are modeling, but I think our kids can model for their peers as well. The importance of being attentive to myself so that I can show up with my whole person. I use an acronym here that's really helpful, I think, when it comes to being present. And it's the acronym is RAIN, like falling from the sky. And the first letter is, when I feel an emotion coming up, R is recognize. something is brewing. And just then I want to analyze. That's the A. What am I feeling? And it might be, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling hungry. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling hurt. And then inquire. So recognize, analyze, inquire. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling hurt? And then the N is nurture. So that I have that opportunity to go, okay, I feel this way. Thank you for showing up for me. But you know what? I got this. And then I can walk through it with love instead of fear. So 2 is mindfulness. We have connection. We have mindfulness. 3 is routines. And some people might go, why do you need routines when you're talking about building resiliency? But I think it's the greatest place to start because our kids crave routines. Especially a younger person, they need to know what's coming next. Having a plan that helps transition, having a plan that transitions from after school to the home time, having a plan to getting ready in the morning. Those routines are so helpful to build resiliency. And the last part of routines is self-care. And I think as a family approaches this together, having just noting the importance of self-care, huge. And it might mean as parents, we need to literally put this on our calendar and block time. Because again, the importance of caring for myself means now I can show up for my loved ones. Think of how important that would be for all kiddos to have know that, hey, it's okay for me to take a time out. I need to rejuvenate for myself. And that teaching those coping skills, reading a book, going for a walk, play, baking, cooking, whatever their mindfulness is slowing down and practicing that in a daily routine. And then number 4 is goals. And having attainable and reachable goals that really help walk through when things get bumpy. So maybe a goal for a kiddo is, I want to do better in music this year. Well, how can you do better in music? It might come down to daily nuggets of practice. I'm just going to daily practice. And setting those attainable, achievable, small goals that reach a larger. So my 4 tips, connections, people who build you up, not tear you down, being mindful, attentive to your own needs so that you can show up for others, having routines and goals. And last, just taking time to pause. I use another acronym, sorry, I use a lot of acronyms. Another acronym is just pause. And that the pause is be present, be attentive, understand. And I use that for listen to understand, not to respond. S is support. And we do have to make the circle bigger. Sometimes we, caregivers, we need support too. And we need to see if we can get support for our kiddo. And then E is exploring those solutions together. I think it fits so well with those 4: connection, mindfulness, goals, and routines.
For parent support, tips, and resources, join her Facebook group or visit the MKG Parent Coach website. Well, finally, we say goodbye to one of our longtime Minnesota leaders, U.S. Senator Dave Durenberger, who recently passed away. He was dedicated to improving our health care in this country, as well as helping millions with the Americans with Disability Act. We were honored to have Senator Durenberger as one of our distinguished guests here on Inside Healthcare. We have a special rebroadcast for you of our interview with Senator Durenberger from December 2015. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Healthcare. Americans say healthcare is one of their top concerns. Joining us to talk about the future of healthcare is someone who has spent much of his career in the front lines of national healthcare policy. So we're very, very pleased to have with us Senator David Durenberger. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Quite the extensive background. You served in the U.S. Senate representing Minnesota from 1978 to 95, and in the Senate, you started your leadership role in national healthcare policy. Since then, you have served on various national healthcare commissions and boards, and until last year, Senator Durenberger served as Senior Health Policy Fellow at the University of St. Thomas and chaired the National Institute of Health Policy, and that just skims the surface of all the things that you've been involved with, especially in the healthcare field. So we're very honored to have you with us.
It's an absolute delight to be able to talk about this subject with you. Thank you.
So based on that extensive background that you've had and experience, what have you learned about healthcare and healthcare policies?
I think the first thing that I've learned is how many really superb health professionals we have in this country. Some of them get all the credit for discoveries and things like that, or rare, working on cancer and rare diseases and things like that. But most of them don't get all the credit they deserve just working at the bedside, working in primary care, working in family practice. The unfortunate thing is they're working in a system that nobody can understand. It's not like any other place in the world. And the disincentives between the payment systems in this country, because we pride ourselves on being a private system, and the abilities that healthcare professionals actually have is raising the costs of healthcare, but it's not satisfying any of us who are inside the healthcare system. And that's a big challenge. And I think the other thing is that as the costs go up for all of us, whether it's expressed in health insurance or the bills that we pay or anything like that, some parts of the health get neglected. And right now, dealing with mental illnesses in prisons instead of in healthcare environments, behavioral health problems, you can see it in schools every day, in mothers and families and children's healthcare areas. There's so many shortcomings in the current system in terms of availability of services that you sometimes want to throw up your hands and say, why are we spending all this money? And that's what's led me into the healthcare reform business.
Yeah, and obviously it's something that touches everybody. Everyone is affected by healthcare.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we had the Obamacare, I guess even the president calls it that. I mean, that was thrown into the mix. Did that make things worse? Did that improve some of the issues but make other areas worse?
No, it's once it's fully implemented, I mean, we're changing a healthcare system we've had for 100 and some years. We're trying to keep it private. We're trying to continue to use health insurance as our financing vehicle to get into it. Some of it's public, some of it's private. But the whole idea of reform in Obamacare is to change the incentives for us to stay healthy and get just a little bit of the rewards that now people get for getting sick, financial rewards.
Well, in the past they were rewarded taking care of the sick.
Right.
Hospitals, clinics, doctors. Right. And now we're...
And they also get rewarded for inventing new things all the time. Think about drugs today. Oh my God. If it's a blockbuster, and it's going to cure cancer or dementia or something like that, well, I think I'd like to figure out what, can I help pay for it? But when it's just something new, something else coming along, or the charges on old drugs going through the roof, people are just totally confused about how can this kind of a healthcare system represent reform? And the answer is it doesn't. It represents what we're trying to change through what's called Obamacare, but it's going to take a long time to get it done. And not everybody in the current system is treated equally. I mean, the hospitals and the doctors are asked to start, bring your costs down, bring your costs down. But at the same time, bring your emphasis on health and health care and so forth up. And there's some people that don't have to quite play by those same rules, and most of them are in drugs, devices, or diagnostics in one way or another, because they are paid per episode of care. And if you're a radiologist and your business is providing diagnostics, MRI, CT scans, whatever the case may be, we see them springing up all over. And the same thing is true of all these niche specializations. I looked through the Minneapolis-St. Paul magazine the other day, and I think I counted 502 just in the metro area, different specialty places that deliver, private places that deliver health care. And no wonder the system is difficult for us to think about.
And when you're saying private, are those for-profit versus nonprofit?
Most of them, yes. I mean, everybody who is in the provider side is getting paid money for it. If it's an organization, a clinic, or whatever it might be, of course they're all for profit. But the problem isn't, the fact that somebody is for profit rather than not for profit, because both of them end up getting paid roughly the same for doing the same thing. The question is, what do they do? I mean, are they keeping people healthy? Are they restoring? Are they diagnosing a problem appropriately and providing the right answer for that problem so the person doesn't have to repeat coming back and seeking an answer?
Such a complex thing with the healthcare, and then throw in there politics. It's become so politicized, especially with the 2016 presidential race on the way. I mean, how do you see the future of healthcare in America?
Sure. We've invented in the past, and one of them is what used to be called the Health Maintenance Organization. Now it's called an Accountable Care Organization. And it's a way in which let me put it as simply as I can. And this, I think, is the goal of a lot of this. Rather than buying health insurance and then using that health insurance, and that's difficult enough to make that choice, using that health insurance to go buy a hospital, a doctor, an x-ray, or whatever it is, you buy a membership, annual, 2-year membership, 3-year membership, whatever it is, in a health organization, which is incented to keep you healthy. And if you have a problem, to diagnose and solve that problem as quickly as possible. Now, who would want to disagree with that? Maybe to some degree, it would be politics, like how do we get from here to there? Or it might be the people that have a stake in not changing. That's always a problem as well. But at least we do have defined goals for where this national and state policy will take us.
What can we individuals do to help, fix the system, drive those healthcare costs down, besides maybe, take care of our health and be healthy? But what other things can we be doing?
The first thing is think about a career in healthcare, or ask your children to think about a career in healthcare. Recognize the fact that people who have made that choice want to do the right thing. And that's number one. Number two is listen to them. And because the best contribution you and I can make is stay healthy. That means eat well, for starters, exercise, do all the things we know instinctively we could and should be doing. And don't expect to get a lot of financial rewards for it, but hopefully you live in a system in which that will happen. Another thing is, in communities like the ones that are part of this organization and where your readers live, your viewers live, the community is a place in which we really spot health problems, like in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, before they become hospitalization and so forth. There are so many things that community can do, to solve some of these problems. And good communities are looking at them right now, and how do we change things that go on in our community? Slowly we're changing. Yes, well, I think so. Yeah. But it's interesting when I go from one community or the other at someone's invitation, you always find people that are eager to do something to help those that are less advantaged than they might be, or to cure a particular problem that has occurred in their family, and they find that there's dozens of people with that same problem living in that community, or to create a community that is welcoming to those who have solutions and and to work to organize community to deal with these things.
There's so much that we can be talking about, so I'm hoping we can get to some of it. You know, we've been hearing a lot about, during the presidential race, about Medicare, how different candidates say that they can fix it. What would you say is the answer to fixing Medicare?
Sure. Medicare is a probably the best program we have going if our goal is to change this whole system so that we start financially rewarding quality and value for money. Medicare is one of the best things we got going because it's the least expensive way to get there. Medicare also has been organized over the years to deal with focused incentives for healthcare, and now under Obamacare, it's directly moving in that direction. The question is, how do we get in? How do we get into the Medicare program? Is it always going to be a government program? And in 1985, we experimented with privatizing Medicare, and we went to like health maintenance organizations or HMOs in this community.
Yeah.
55% of the people in 1985 signed up for an HMO. So the fact that they can be private organizations, like what's something called Medicare Advantage, that's a possibility. But today we're paying a lot more than we should. We paid 95% of traditional Medicare payments to these accountable, what we're now called accountable care organizations, and they changed everything. So we can save money by going the direction of a reformed private Medicare.
Do you think eventually we will go to a single payer kind of a system in the United States?
I think we
to me,
passed
Medicare
that.
kinda sounds
no,
like
it's a
that,
good
yeah.
question about single payer because if every single vote in the House and the Senate to pass Obamacare was a liberal or a Democrat, and you'd think they would have gone to single payer. But to their credit, they recognized America's different. And we ought to be able to figure out a way to create a uniquely American health system that doesn't cost so much and produces more by way of good health and good health care than the one that we have. So the answer is no, we're not going that direction. But unless everybody cooperates to get us where we could go in creating this unique system, it's going to be really tough to hold back some of the forces that would say, it's a heck of a lot simpler to go to a single payer like everybody else in the world, and it costs a lot less too.
Final comments, takeaway for our viewers about healthcare, the future of healthcare.
Well, it's, you know, I talk about encouraging people to go into healthcare. You know, I've got my oldest of my 12 granddaughters is right now preparing herself for a career in healthcare. I'd encourage everybody I could to do that. I would encourage people to take responsibility. I mean, there's enough information out there on how to stay healthy and how to encourage other people to stay healthy and how to help your community work on problems that only community can. So, you know, just get involved in some way and encourage the health systems that you use to do something about the simplest thing that we can't seem to get our hands around, which is information. You know, why can't we, in this day and age when information is forced on us, you know, right through our handheld, why can't we communicate consistently across, you know, our primary care persons and our specialists and our hospital and our insurance company? What's going on here? So, you know, this is why I say there's nothing but opportunity out there for people that can come up with ways in which we reduce the cost and improve the quality and satisfaction of you and me and everybody else.
I love that, looking at it as an opportunity instead of going, oh, what the heck? I mean, there's nothing we can do about it.
Oh, yes, nothing but. Yeah, right.
Well, this has been great to have you with us, Senator.
Thanks for asking me.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Senator Dave Durenberger passed away recently at his home in St. Paul, surrounded by his family. His son Dave says his father would want to be remembered mostly for the passage of the Americans for Disabilities Act because it removed barriers for millions. We thank Senator Durenberger for his service to our country, for his service to Minnesota, and for his dedication to our health care. Senator Durenberger was age 88.